Hi, everybody. Welcome to Binford Chronicle. Well, guess what? We're 7 days into the Trump presidency, and J6 hostages were released on day one. DEI is dead. Illegal criminals are arriving at Guantanamo Bay. Woohoo! All illegal border crossings are being addressed and sent home. The border wall is being constructed. Vets that refuse the shot are reinstated with benefits, and hopefully they will receive back pay. We are energy focused. Doge has already saved us $36 billion in wasteful spending. And the list goes on. Today, we're going to meet with two of our political hostages, Kelly Meggs and his wife. Welcome home, guys. Let me pull you up. How are you guys doing?
Good. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. This is 2025 is just we're moving to positiveness, aren't we?
Well, the first 20 days were pretty slow, but the last 10 have been pretty aggressive. So,
Yeah, I know. I know. You guys were stressing it out, and I was stressing it out too because when Trump was talking about releasing the J6ers and then he talked about it on another show and said day one, and then another show he passed it on to JD Vance, and JD Vance totally freaked me out when he says, "Well, we're going to look at them," and I was like, "What is he saying?" Like, the feds lied. They made them sign plea deals, which means they signed things saying they did something that they didn't do. So I was really nervous about it, and I remember the whole day I was just on pins and needles watching it. And when he first had his announcement, he was doing his first orders. I'm like, where's the executive order? I was just waiting so hard. So I know it was hard for you guys.
I know. I'm like, how long is this lunch? We were calling each other. I'm in prison and she's at home. And she's like, why is he eating lunch right now? I was like, oh, he's going to get there. Just relax. I never followed it enough to know that there was a luncheon and then there's a parade and then there's all this stuff. I just always see him going back to the White House and signing stuff. So I didn't realize it was 8 hours later, so it
Oh
was
my
pretty
God.
aggravating.
It was the longest I mean, it was so long because I was right there with you guys, and I'm like, "Oh my God, if I'm feeling like this, how are the families and the J6ers feeling?" I was
Yeah, I
like,
mean, that even goes back, just look to the run up to the election. And I mean, I talk about this quite a bit. The first real impact was I was watching the Butler, Pennsylvania rally. And when I saw that, I am like, oh no, there's no way this just happened. You know what I mean? And not just for me, but for the whole country. Um, and I just was thinking, like, man, what are the repercussions of this going to be, not just for myself, but for everyone? And to see him get back up, and when he put his hand in the air, I literally was crying inside of a prison. And like, I
"Aw."
was like, man, that's my man. And all in prison, there's different cars. There's the black car, the white car, the Spanish car. It's prison is the most racist place that does it the right way. You know what I mean? You're more than welcome to mingle with whoever you want to. You have a great time. You love each other. You take care of each other. But when it comes down to it, everybody kind of goes back in their little area and hangs out. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's kind of funny that that's what it does. But every single car was clapping and happy. It was pretty amazing. Like, everybody was glued to the TV that we were watching, just watching him.
I'm really happy for him.
Oh yeah, and absolutely. I mean, they were just. Let me tell you something. If they voted in prison, 90% of the people in prison were going to vote for Trump. That's for sure. So I got nothing but support from everybody in there. I was really surprised, actually, but the inmates there were definitely Trump supporters. So
Oh,
that was
that's
the
a good
first thing.
thing.
And then rolling into the election, oh man, I was like, I'm listening to all. You got to understand, my day consisted of radio from first thing in the morning till all night. I pretty much ran my radio 24 hours a day, because if I'd get up in the morning and watch Fox News, I go to work for maybe 2, 3 hours, come back, and then I just start listening to the programs to see what was going on, what was happening in the polls. So I was constantly listening to that kind of stuff in there, because I've never been more dialed into an election, just because I knew the consequences. I mean,
And the
I,
whole
I
name.
hate to think what would have happened if Kamala would have won. I mean, my out date was 2031. And as devastating as it's been, at least I can say, hey, you know, it's funny because every day there's like a moment where we break down, and it's like, man, I can't believe this is actually happening, And
I
I
know.
just
It's
can't
like how
imagine what it would have been like.
it's like you had a normal life, living your life, and then you got involved in the elections. You basically got involved in the elections back in 2014 when Trump started running, you know?
Yeah,
Because that's when we started seeing a difference and a change. Like, it was all this stuff was already happening in the back scenes, but our eyes weren't open really yet, you know? We were
right.
still living our lives, and we knew there were things that we had to do, and we knew there were issues that we had, but we didn't know how deep it was until Trump took office. So, like, what was your life like
Trump
until
knew how
your
deep it
eyes
was.
started to open?
Yeah,
I think Trump was shocked himself, you know. I think that was a big shocker for him when he got in to see how bad it was the
Yeah.
first time. That's
yeah,
why he's so hardcore this time. He's not messing around. He's like, I know what's in there. I'm gonna just take care of everything.
Yeah, you're
yeah.
right.
There
Because
was
the
no
first time
surprises this time.
Yeah, the first time he went in, he didn't like I was telling my husband because I was keeping such good track of it. I'm like, I don't remember him firing and hiring so many people the first
Yeah.
time. Like the
Yeah, he
list
does.
has gone on.
Yeah.
Um, so um, so
Well,
when
I
you
think he was.
guys
I think he was confused that he thought when he got into office and became the president that everybody was just going to love him and it's going to be yay yay Donald Trump all the time. He didn't realize that he was going to have all this fighting against him. So that's really what he did. I mean, I think that this time he doesn't care if they like him or not. He's getting the job done. So
Yeah, and he saw a whole lot more this time around because I'm sure when he went in there, because people liked him and then they hated him because they wanted Hillary in and Hillary lost. So he probably started seeing a lot of things that, wow, I didn't know this was happening. But he didn't know who his enemies were.
right,
I
And now
think he didn't know a lot of who his enemies were, and now he knows and sees how screwed up it is. And now he has more backing too, because when you're fighting the deep state like that, and you're fighting people that have tons and billions of dollars, and they've got billion-dollar backers,
yeah,
trillion-dollar backers, you've got to have some support. And he didn't have that support when he was in the first time, I think. I think this time, like Elon Musk is on his team, and Elon Musk has, billions of dollars, and he's got other people coming out of the woodwork now that are supporting him so he can fight back.
right.
You know,
He's got a lot of the people that were against him the first time are out there now. And I actually think it's kind of funny because this doesn't happen if Trump stays in office in 2020. So it kind of creates it manifested he manifested his own destiny to be able to come back in and actually be able to do this. And as much as I don't subscribe to this theory at all, but it's so funny because all the Q people are like, "We told you there was a plan. It has to happen," and all these different things. So I just think it's funny along those lines that a lot of the stuff that they were talking about back in 2020 did manifest itself over the last 4 years, and that's really what pushed him back into the office. So that was pretty neat experience that way.
yeah, yeah. This, I think. Well, I'm a God believer, and I think that some things had to happen for us to wake up as well,
Yeah,
because society just was so not connected with what was going on. And even some Democrats have turned. I think they're the hardest people to turn because they don't really care for research. They don't. It seems like they listen to one side and then they won't even try to research it to call it out to see if it's actually true. They'll just take it verbatim. And
and
I
they're
think,
supposedly the higher educated branch, yeah, or party. They act like they're the college educated. We're all this stuff, but yeah, when it comes to it, they just take what anybody tells them, and that's the truth, instead of
yep.
actually finding out what the truth is.
Yeah, yeah, and so some of this stuff had to really hit hard. I think God's planned it that way because He says they're not going to wake up unless it hits them really hard. And when we saw, a lot of people saw a lot of attacks on Trump, and they saw the attacks on the J6ers, and some people did listen. I mean, really, with all of the cities that were burning throughout our nation before January 20th, you're going to tell me that that was an insurrection because we saw a lot of flags waving, a
Yeah,
lot of people. There was no police cars burning down. You
yeah.
know? I mean,
And
I got yeah.
regardless of what they say, there were no officers killed that day. So
Look at all the people that were there. and all those cities and offices near those roadways did not burn down.
Right.
It was a beautiful to me, it's a beautiful sight. Look at these people, they're all happy, they're Trump flag wavers, they love the blue, they're swinging their flags. I didn't see that during the BLM riots.
You know,
you
They're
know?
burning the flags, right?
and honestly, that day was really, really a beautiful day
Yeah.
until it wasn't. And it was a matter of fact when the MPD, really the Capitol Police, were kind of maintaining things in order. It's when the MPD showed up and started deploying canisters into the crowd that the agitation began, and that's where the full on riot really began.
Yeah, you can see some of them spraying the crowd.
Yep.
You see the crowd, and the crowd is so big. Where are you going to run? Look at this crowd, and there's canisters going in there.
Well, you
Like
can't move back. The crowd's
you,
pushing
you
you
can't.
forward. You can't. You're wedged in between. So, and I don't know if you're that familiar with the CS gas and stuff, but when they're deploying that stuff, it sucks the air out. It
You
sucks the
can't breathe.
oxygen out. You can't breathe at all. I mean,
Yeah.
so
I mean,
your only instinct is to get out, and you can't go backwards or forwards. So you're just kind of banging around trying to get out of the way, and it doesn't happen. And that just agitated the officers more, which agitated the crowd more, and that's why I think it was a perfect setup.
yeah, it was a perfect set because innocent people were getting hurt.
Yeah.
I've heard from the other J6ers, you're trying to help someone, you're like, wait a minute, you're hurting people. And
Right.
just like that gentleman that got shot in the face, he was deep in the crowd. He
Yeah,
wasn't
Joshua
beating
Black.
anybody up. Yeah, and he got a big hole in his face, and that could have hit somebody's eyeball.
Yeah,
It
and he
was
went to
very
prison with that. He
dangerous what
went to
they
prison
did.
with that too.
Huh?
He was put in prison with that hole still in his face, and it was all infected and everything. It was really bad. I spoke to him. He's actually one of the first people I spoke to when I got out of prison, as I was going from Memphis back to meet my family.
Wow, wow. That's just crazy how that happened. So when did you guys get there? Did you guys go guys were at the rally when Trump
Yeah.
was talking, right? And you
Well,
guys did you guys do
our involvement
security there?
our involvement in January 6th was kind of a series of perfectly bad events, I guess is the best way to put it. We had done we were basically doing hurricane relief, and that's what we were doing in Florida. We have a lot of hurricanes, so our deal was we're going to be like helping hurricane relief. They did Houston. I did a lot of stuff with Bahamas, and then during the Bahama hurricanes we sent a ton of stuff over. And then as these riots started kicking off around the country and we started seeing things happening, it really became a question of why isn't anybody doing anything? Why isn't anybody stopping this? And so when they're burning down buildings and destroying people's livelihoods and stuff like that, we made an effort to go and get involved in some of the security details of that. And that led us into the Roger Stone. I did a lot of personal security for Roger Stone, moving him at events in Miami and as well as a couple times in Tampa. And so when January 6th was initially planned, we had not. I basically told her, look, we went up there in November for the Million MAGA March, and it was a massive crowd, but nothing really happened because there was enough Trump supporters that it was okay until it was over, and then everybody was kind of leaving, and it became basically like a dusk event where these people were walking back to their cars and stuff, and people were getting attacked in the streets. Well, by that time we were back in the hotel, so we're watching people live streaming, sending me. We have people that watch all the internet to let us know what's going on when we're actually physically in a security detail like that. And they started sending me a bunch of pictures of people being attacked around the city, but there's no way you can get there in time to do anything, and there's just so many people in the group that's attacking them. So that's kind of, and then in December 14th, they did the Jericho March. We did not go to the Jericho March in December, um, because obviously I had to do some work. I mean, I'm not a, full-time guy for the Oath Keepers, obviously. But
Right.
so I was working and I couldn't go to the Jericho March, but a big group of them went up there and they did their thing. I think they had Michael Flynn that day and Roger Stone that day. And then when January 6th started coming around, we were talking about it, and we had kind of decided, we're just going to sit this one out. We've been up, the group's been up there a couple times. Nothing ever happens. It's just kind of like, by the time anything pops off, you can't get over there and help anybody because they're not going to come anywhere you're at. They're just not going to be around you, which is a good thing about your presence,
Mm-hmm.
But then Trump put out his famous tweet of, come to DC, it's going to be wild. And I reposted that in one of the chats, which they used against me in the January 6th committee, which they used against me in my trial.
I'm like, don't say wild no more.
I saw that, and what he meant wild is all the people that show up.
Right.
And he uses that word all the time, and I'm like, honey, are you got trouble?
Like, when is it ever a wild experience? What, like, wild crazy when you go to a Trump rally? It's just full of love and happiness and joy.
Martin. We grew up in the 70s. Okay, wild was a word that we used.
Yeah, Steve Martin and Dan Aykroyd were wild and crazy guys, right? So
they were.
But so when he put up that wild thing, I reposted it into the Oath Keepers chat of Florida because I was the leader of the Oath Keepers in Florida. So I put that into our chat group and I said, look, I'm thinking about going, but if we're going to go, we're going to do a security detail. And that's when Roger Stone had contacted me and said, hey, I'm going. Do you guys want to do my security? And I said, yeah. So we had planned on doing 8 to 10 guys. We were going to be moving Roger Stone around on the 5th and the 6th. That's basically our plan going up there. So I contacted some friends of mine in North Carolina because we were going to stay up there. And this guy had a big farm. And we were going to do some shooting and stuff and just, kill the day, kind of bonding and doing our thing, and then go to DC on the 6th. Well, the Sunday prior to going up to DC, I got a phone call from the Stop the Steal people. And they asked us if we could do a bigger group of people who were congressional aides and some of the speakers that were going to be speaking down at the Capitol on the stage there in the area 8, which was permitted event. And I said, well, let me put it to the group and see if we can get more people because they wanted 30 of us instead of 8 or 10. So I put it back out there. We were able to come up with a group. And I was that night, I was on the conference call with the White House, with the press secretary and stuff like that, basically laying out the details of what we were going to be doing. So we had Secret Service clearance to be in the ellipse area that we were at, because we had to go through up to the front. And when the thing was over, we started moving our security group.
At the White House.
Yeah, we were at the ellipse at the White House, right? And then we were moving the people down from the ellipse to the stage that was supposed to be at the Capitol. Only when we got to the Capitol, there was no stage. It was when we got there, this is the weird thing. We literally had video of us moving along the sidewalks outside of the barriers that they said we crossed, because we were going around the outside. But what they didn't show you is that here was a barrier and here was a barrier that had already been moved. They were gone. Mm-hmm. So we had no idea that we were actually going on to some kind of restricted ground or area. There was no barricades. So we walked straight in. There was nothing there. And so we walked around. We were going to go to the west side of the building because that's the way we approached. And really, it was just too crowded. We couldn't get over to that side. So I said, let's just go around because our stage is on that side anyway. Let's just go around the building that way. So we stayed off out in the parking lot, basically, went all the way around the outside. So,
wow.
And that's kind of how we approached the Capitol. I don't really know. And on Sunday, when we were, or on the 5th, when we were supposed to be shooting, they had called us up and said, look, can you guys skip your day in North Carolina and just shoot right up here because we need you guys to be at the Supreme Court on the 5th for a Women's for Trump event. They want somebody to watch and make sure that nobody attacks the stage.
It was really fun. Everyone was having a good time. Yeah. It wasn't like people went there that's what's crazy about the whole thing. They act like it was just the 6th. I mean, for us, maybe it was for someone. I don't know who that person would be.
FBI agents.
For us, I was having so much fun. We were there doing security, meeting all kinds of Trump people that were amazing. It was such a nice time. No one was violent. Everyone had a good time. We went back to the hotel. We ate and mingled with everyone. Just a totally different thing than,
They immediately labeled her a terrorist because she was hanging out with the nuns.
I have a picture. I had a picture with nuns, but I don't know what happened to it. I think they took it off.
It's in your evidence.
Oh, it's in my evidence?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm surprised they didn't arrest the nuns. I don't know what happened.
You never know. They probably did. But yeah, so we didn't go. We never went shooting in North Carolina on the 5th. We went on up to. We spent the night on the 4th and went on up in the 5th early in the morning to get to DC in time to do the Woman for Trump event at the Supreme Court. Well, the reason that we had our guns with us was because we were going to shoot on the 5th. Had nothing to do with the Capitol. And we also obeyed the gun laws. We kept our guns outside of the city in a hotel. We rented a hotel just for that.
Virginia.
Left the guy there. He did not have a car. He could not walk. He didn't want to go to DC because he had a bad hip. He was some 75-year-old guy, 80-year-old guy. And he's like, I'll stay here with this stuff and just watch it on TV. I don't care. And we're like, okay, cool. So we left him. And supposedly this guy was the guy that was going to come barreling into town with all of our weapons and just help us attack the Capitol with no car and no valid means of transportation. I guess he could Uber. Sir, could you please load all of these weapons in your car so that we can go attack the Capitol? I mean, it doesn't make any sense, but that's the route they tried to go. Uh-oh, we lost you. I have no sound. I'm not hearing you.
It is.
There you go.
In DC, you don't have reciprocity. So I want to see the president change that, because if you're part of the United States, every part of the United States, you should be able to cross lines with your firearm. You shouldn't have to drive around a complete state because they don't have reciprocity. It's our Second Amendment right. And for DC to be, the District of Columbia, and that's where our presidents live, and you're telling us that we can't have a firearm in that state of law at all, is it's against our Constitution. And
we literally checked each other. We checked each other to make sure we weren't bringing a bullet in, because in DC, if you have a round to a weapon that's not registered there, it's the same as if you had the weapon. So we really were very particular on what we brought, and we made sure we were completely legal. We even called the police and told them we were coming.
Well, we went through the security by the White House.
Right, I know that. Yeah.
They scanned us.
But DC, I don't trust DC. That's why I don't go to the inaugurations. I not to travel to
never go back to
DC.
DC in my life. No.
We have an event coming up here in the near future where it's probably going to be
Mar-a-Lago.
It's going to be either in the White House or it's going to be at Mar-a-Lago. I'm wanting to go to the White House, you know what I mean, just for historical reasons. But every other person I've talked to about it is like, we want to go to Mar-a-Lago, which I fully understand.
He should have the inauguration here.
I know, really.
Absolutely. We got to have a huge boat parade. It would be great.
Yeah. Yes, of course. We've already had those huge boat parades here. So he should have the inauguration here. Everything presidential should be here.
Right. It should just be the White House to the south, I guess. I don't know what they call it.
Yeah, I mean, because we're a free state, we've got our Second Amendment rights, and I just don't like going anywhere, especially when there's BLM there.
Where was it where they shot the fireworks at us?
Oh yeah, we stayed at the in November. We stayed at the, what is it called? The Willard? Yeah, the Willard. And we were downstairs eating in the restaurant, and BLM was walking, you know what I mean? They started walking that night, and they came by the hotel and they were shooting these flaming fireworks into the building.
We all had to run into the hotel.
Yeah.
There was tons of them.
Yeah.
Yes.
Nobody came. No policeman came to help us.
No police came.
They didn't come. Oh, this is so good.
So, I mean, the J6ers just got no fair treatment. I mean, Ray Epps, he got what, 6 months?
Well, yeah, I mean, he's a Fed. That's
what?
obvious. I mean, it's obvious that he orchestrated the whole thing. And regardless of what anybody says, this whole thing that they came out with, that there were only 26 FBI agents, that's a complete cover. And anybody that lets them just breeze over that isn't being earnest and not being truthful with the American people. Because not only was FBI there was DHS there was the Joint Terrorism Task Force there was CIA assets on the ground, there was part of the Ukrainian Azov Brigade on the ground, which were brought here by Alexandria Chalupa. Alexandria Chalupa has already been called out on this because someone obtained her. And if you don't know who Alexandria Chalupa was, she's one of the operatives from the Clinton administration. She was involved heavily in the Russia collusion thing and all the FISA warrants that were going on at the time. And Alexandria Chalupa, they've obtained receipts for her hotel rooms and airfare from members of the Nazi Party of Ukraine. Then they were on the ground that day, and we spotted them in the videos. We thought, we were like, man, those guys look like German guys. You know what I mean? So we're pretty sure that the guys we saw moving in the videos that we were doing from our evidence, we're pretty sure that that was them. All had the little earbud things in, same crew cut haircut, all blonde hair, blue-eyed guys moving around. It was pretty evident that they were working together. And so there's a lot of different groups that were there that day. It wasn't just the FBI, and that's what they're trying to do and cover it up. We know for a fact that we had Metro DC police. Not only were they undercover, they were dressed in Trump regalia, and they were telling people, go into the Capitol, go into the Capitol. That like in itself, that right there, just the fact that we know that there was a Capitol or a Metro police officer in the crowd undercover, and his body cam footage shows him telling people to go in the Capitol. That is entrapment by estoppel. That is an entrapment by the police, and therefore every single person that was involved in January 6th should be innocent, and their case should be thrown out. Period. Because a pardon's one thing, but I'm not interested in a pardon. I don't want a pardon. A pardon doesn't do anything. A pardon doesn't fix what happened the last 4 years. A pardon, okay, so you're going to erase my charges. You're going to erase it for her, but it doesn't give me back what I've lost. It doesn't. I don't recover. I don't.
All of you guys have lost a lot.
Yeah, I don't get my job back. I mean, I was making $250,000 a year. You know what I mean? I've had to sell my rental property. I've had to cash out my 401k. I've lost $1 million in income just from my job the last 4 years. And for what? For a lie from the beginning. I mean, the officers testified on the stand and lied. I don't know if you've ever seen the Stephen Baker videos, but if you get a chance, they're on YouTube. You can look up The Day in the Life of Harry Dunn Part 1 and A Day in the Life of Harry Dunn Part 2. And they will break out step by step by step how David Lazarus and Harry Dunn lied under oath in our trial. And guess what? Nobody's done anything about it. It's been proven. It's been brought before Congress. The only hope we have is that Barry Loudermilk, the representative from Georgia, is currently the chair of the new January 6th committee. And he is very aware of those videos. So when Jim Jordan appointed him as the chair to the new J6 committee, I was pretty excited about that because I know he knows the truth. He knows what's going on. And I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a lot of guys from January 6th up on Capitol Hill testifying in some January 6th committee hearings, which would be nice.
Oh, yeah. My husband and I, we're all waiting to see orange suits. We want to see a lot of orange suits.
Yeah, I know. I already wore those for a long time.
That's horrifying.
Not on you, people.
Yeah.
The right people need to be wearing those. And, they should have to go to federal prison and be treated, as horribly as you guys were. I mean, that's ridiculous that they put you guys never having, criminal history in these prisons that are just absolutely horrendous. It's just.
Well, you'll never see that. You're never going to see that because it's just the way that the politics are played in our country is you can get away with murder and they're not going to do anything to you. As long as you're a politician and you're involved in the whole, the crime spree that's going on up on a Capitol Hill, no, they're not going to prosecute anybody. They're never going to put. I mean, if that was the case, Joe Biden would be in jail right now. I mean, ultimately, a congressional referral isn't what got Menendez. What's his name, Mendez or whatever his name, the guy that just got sentenced to prison for 11 years. It was on some other charge that they ultimately got him on. It wasn't that his own peers put him in prison. You know what I mean? So it's not like he went before.
They were letting him go. They were like, don't leave him alone.
Yeah. So that's a perfect example of what happens. The Epstein disappearance from the scene. They covered that up because they were all involved in it. And I think that's what you're going to see. That's one of the reasons I think that they're giving RFK such a hard time is because they're all in the pockets of big pharma, and it's just a matter of they're taking all the money and
Mhm.
they're robbing the American people blind. So I'm glad to see Doge. I'm glad to see a couple of people that may point it out over the next couple of years. But you really need to look at guys like, on our side, they're worse than the people on the Democrat side. At least you know what you got when you're looking at a Democrat. The Republicans will lie to you with your hand in your pocket.
Oh yeah, you can tell if you follow, like you said earlier, the Heritage Foundation. What was that other part that you mentioned? That they're keeping track of our representatives, and we start to pay attention to that. We know who we need to primary out because it's clear as day how they vote, because their job is to be a constitutional form of government, and they're supposed to be voting on constitutional bills, and anything that's not constitutional they should be saying no to, and they're voting yes to those bills. And that's why America, the republic, is under such a mess. We've got Republicans that are majority of them are democratic thinking Republicans. And
Right.
the scary thing is how do we get it, how do we get them, how do we move forward, Kelly? How do we replace these people that are really destroying the republic? We've got to make a change, but the money and the PACs, how do we fight that?
Well, I think realistically, number one, it's going to be very hard right now because you've got Trump in office. And the worst thing that can happen, I mean, unfortunately, the worst thing for the Republican Party is when we're in power. Because when we get in power, we get complacent. We don't pay attention anymore. We go about our lives. We go to work. We roll up our sleeves and we do the job that we do every day as Americans. But I think what happens is it has to be really, really bad for us to start paying attention. I just think the focus of people needs to take. We need to take away everything from Donald Trump. Love the man. He got me out of prison. I love you, Doe. Thank you so much. Um, but it's not about him. It's
Right,
really
it's
not.
not.
We have to look beyond Donald Trump. We have to say, okay, he's pushed this American first agenda, and it's our responsibility as Americans. It's we the what this side said. It's we the people
We the
that have
people, we own the government.
us.
Yeah.
We are responsible for taking care of this and handing it off to the next generation. And unless
Mhm.
we're educating them about what their constitutional rights are and how they need to stand up, then we're in big trouble
Yeah,
because
you are
our population is not getting any younger. The only thing I love is the fact that Barron Trump was able to push his dad into reaching the youth vote, and that's huge. And I think we've got a huge in the young 20 years old, that's 26 and below, that age group. Those people are patriots, and I think that that's going to be good for us going forward for over the next couple of years. And I just think that if we continue to not try to give everything like, oh, it was Trump, and we start looking beyond that and realize it was the American people that made this happen,
Oh
that's what
yeah,
we have to do. That's what we have to
100%.
do.
Trump was willing to be the vessel, but we had to get him in there. And just like
Right,
we got him in there, we have to let him know when he's making wrong decisions. We can't, treat him like he's a god. He's not a
right,
god. He's a
absolutely.
vessel that's working through us. And when things are wrong, kind of like when he did the bump stocks, everybody should have been flooding his emails like, bumps,
Right,
don't take our bump stocks. Bump stocks are not what you think they are. Just teaching him, because the man probably has never picked up a gun in his life, a
right.
firearm in his life. So
Well, he would have been arrested in
he's
New
got
York
all
if he
these
had one.
advisors.
Yeah.
Huh?
I said he would have been arrested in New York if he had one. So,
That's right. But he's got a lot of advisors, but the people, it's our job. And just like I was talking to somebody the other day and they're like, thank God, I feel relieved now. I can relax. And I says, no, you can't, because we've got elections coming up. We've got local elections. We've got governor elections coming up. And then we got to think about the next president, who's going to replace Trump. So we
right.
can't,
I mean, that's
we
the more
can't
important thing.
relax.
Yeah.
Right.
These midterms, I mean, Hakeem Jeffries is licking his chops waiting to get in power. So he's really feeling that all they've got to do is fight through a couple of these different things. And if he can fight through a couple of these committee meetings, or if he can fight through a couple of these confirmation hearings and make themselves look good, then they'll be okay. I think where they're missing the boat, and I believe that America has told them this over and over again, but the Democrats are too stupid to understand it, is that January 6th is not how you're going to win, because enough American people know what you guys did. They can stop playing that game, but they just won't do it.
We just got a comment from Mike Bullock. He said that Trump actually had a firearm license in New York until last year, and he believes it
No.
was revoked. Ah!
Oh, there you go.
Mike, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So let's take a little break, a little commercial break, and then we'll be right back, guys. Okay.
All right.
All right. Let's back. How are you?
Hello.
Okay.
That was my little commercial for you guys. Hope you guys sell those books. It's
I know
I got
I brought one out. I was like, I'm going to show this, but now I don't have to. You got it on there. That's awesome.
yeah, it's really good and it's telling, and I think a lot of people should read the books. It sheds light on what went on, and we just need people to know what's going on in society today. I like this one better.
Yeah.
But really, we need to go forward and we need to keep working towards America. What's your next endeavor from here now moving forward, guys?
Well, that's where we don't have any clue at all.
The hardest part, I think, of everything, I was on an ankle monitor for 2.5 years, and I went to prison for, almost a year. And not having my husband for 4 years, I only seen him once in the 4 years, and my kids only seen him once in the 4 years. So our family was pretty broken up and devastated over this whole thing. So, he's got to, of course, try to find a job now. And it's almost like we have to get to know each other again. It's been 4 years since I've literally able to, I seen you in prison once when I was in DC when I was at my trial.
And that wasn't even a good visit because you were so worried because you're in the middle of a
It was in
trial.
my middle of my prosecution and persecution or whatever it was. So, just my kids were so excited getting them back. It's just totally, you hate to say it, but everyone feels that way. It ruins your life. We don't sleep at night. But I'm hoping with the grace of God that it'll just be over. He came back, and I can tell that he's having some issues. They were very, they were hard on me in prison. I was there a short time, and he's been through a lot more, in DC for 2 years, being shackled and chained in front of your children.
Oh my
I mean,
gosh.
I was a homeschool mom. I was a homeschool
Oh,
mom. I didn't work. I was one of those moms that baked the cookies, um, like you said, never had any kind of
She was
criminal.
the perfect mom.
Yeah, I took care of the kids, anything, activity. So really a shocker for me, and to just lose my whole family, and be arrested with AR-15s and a helicopter overhead, and my kids watching us getting shackled and chained. It was devastating. Sorry. I won't say anymore.
it is
And we're still
devastating.
going. We're still going through it. We're not done yet because we've got. They won't give our. They won't. We had a situation where our grandchildren were taken out of the house when she was in prison, because my daughter had a medical emergency and had to go to the hospital. And she asked the officer if the 13-year-old son could watch the two little ones. And they said that my daughter had alcohol in her bloodstream or whatever. But they're like, well, you can't have the kids in the house now until you guys go through these programs. So my daughter did everything she was supposed to do, and they promised that the kids would be back as soon as she was home. So that if my daughter had another one of her medical episodes, that my wife would be able to take care of the kids. That's what they said. And that was in June. And we are sitting here in January, and we still don't have our grandkids back.
And they literally said that the reason they're not giving them back is because they feel that I'm mentally ill, because I went to January 6th and that I'm giving mental illness to my daughter and having her have my views. And then they said they were holding off on that. So that's been a real challenge. I feel guilty now because, oh my God, I went to January 6th and now my daughter, who's doing everything, and she's a perfect mom. She doesn't even live in this house. We have a house on the property, and they feel that I could be violent. So they're worried that I could be a violent person because of January 6th, which I had no violent charges and never been violent in my life. So they've been really, really still persecuting us. And
Yeah,
it never ends. And that's what's really hard. They just don't ever stop. They don't ever stop. And they have to realize that we're human beings and we're a family, and they have to stop
you're
doing
doing
this.
more damage to the kids,
Yes, the kids
by
cry
doing
all the
that.
time. They want to come home so bad that when we get to have them visit, they want to come home. Yeah, it's heartbreaking.
And
Oh,
to have the
wow.
caseworker literally tell my daughter that it's because your parents are January 6th people and they're terrorists, and we don't know if the kids are going to be safe there. I'm like, I don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense. I can get it if we actually assaulted people and were violent or anything like that. We have none of those charges. It's just, because of the narrative that gets spun in the media constantly and constantly and constantly. Even today, the entire Kash Patel confirmation hearing on Capitol Hill, they haven't talked about nothing but January 6th. And it's
Mhm.
like, until they stop and drop this narrative because it's complete BS, we're constantly under attack. I mean, let me tell you something. For me to go get a job, the first thing they do is Google you. I hired people my entire life, and the first thing I do is I Google their name and look at their social media. I don't have any social media, but if you Google my name, you're gonna know damn well who I am. You know what I mean? There's no
Because it's
hiding it.
all over the internet.
Oh, it's not possible to hide who I am. You know what I mean? And I don't want to. I don't want to work for a company where I have to hide who I am. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
in my prior career, I was the spokesperson for dealerships. So it's hard to find an owner who's going to step up and say, "Hey, this guy represents America. He represents what's right about this country, and that's who we want." So I
Well,
mean,
you looked at that local paper. I told him, please don't read this to me anymore. Last night,
yeah,
a Gainesville paper wrote, Kelly and Connie Meggs have been pardoned and commuted, but one of the two most, what was it, the most
notorious.
notorious people that went to the Capitol. I'm thinking, and they live in, where we live.
They gave our address.
I'm like, oh my gosh, why would you do that?
Yeah.
It's just, why do you not think we're not human beings and have families? And, I mean, it's just crazy. I'm in shock, just shocked of
Yeah.
how our country has reacted. That's what I'm in shock about.
I
That's
mean,
really
it's gotten
sad.
bad because we've lived in Florida. I mean, I moved down here when I was 7 years old. She moved down in 30 years ago,
Yeah.
basically. And so the entire time we've been married, we lived in South Florida, and then we moved up here to Ocala to have more room and land and raise our kids. And we've got the perfect spot. We're in Ocala. We got horse farm. We had horses. We don't right now, but we got donkeys and goats and chickens. I mean, we got a beautiful home. It's a big house. We got another house on the property for my daughter and her kids. Everything's perfect. But every single day, she says, "We got to move. We got to get out of here. We can't be here anymore. We don't want people to know where we're at." You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah,
it's
you
kind
gotta
of hard.
start
And I
over.
can't. I even said last night I was going to go out and get something in the mail, and I'm like, yeah, I probably won't go do that now because I don't know who's out there. You don't know. It seems like there's always people watching or looking for you. I mean, you just don't know. So you got to kind of be a little bit careful because of what's been
Yeah,
going on.
I was looking at I was looking through a history of our results for elections and stuff, and you can kind of see where the country's leaning. And we're almost half and half, of republic thinking people and socialist thinking people. And that's what makes it hard, because I feel like that's where you're getting all that feedback, is people that are just socialist haters, and they don't want to know what happened. They just want to hear
Right.
what happened, and then they live off of that. And that's not an independent thinking person. And that's a I'm going to follow whatever, I'm going to follow the crowd type person. And
Right.
I think that's the side that really votes for that socialist type democracy. They're always calling America democracy. And I just I'm so sorry this has happened to you guys, and I hope that it gets better, because I hope that Trump realizes what's going on with families and people. I mean, just to hear that you're because your daughter's living on the same property, that's ridiculous. That's what we do. If I wish I could do that, I wish I could have a piece of property and have my daughter live on it. I don't have those
Oh, it's
resources.
fantastic. You get to see your grandkids every day and stuff like that. You know, I
Yeah,
mean, it's
you get to help her
a
out, and she
perfect
gets to
scenario.
flourish that way. That's what families used to be way back in the day. They helped each other out and they stayed close. Now, my daughter's in Colorado. So if I have to help her, it's at a very far distance, and it's really hard to get to her. But that's where America is now. It's they make it so hard for us to have those resources, and now you have to start from nothing. You have to start from fresh, and they're tearing your family apart. That's just wrong, you
Right.
know? And how can they be so allowed to do that? You've
Because,
been pardoned. Your slate has been
yeah.
clean. They should not be able to judge you or criticize you or mark you mentally ill. They should not be able to do that.
Hmm.
Yeah, I've never been diagnosed mentally ill, just so everybody knows. It's just a scary thing that people say that about you. I just don't understand how people, Democrat or Republican, and can say that about you and don't understand that, what if that was you in the situation? I mean, I would not do that to anybody. I'm a very strong Christian person. And, I had to go into prison being called a white racist or whatever they called me. I had to literally make friends with people and hide out for a long time because these people hated my guts when I walked in these prison doors. I'm not let alone never been into prison in my life, shackle and chain, and I'm screamed at and I have to hide out. And I had literally at the end they ended up hugging me goodbye because they realized that, oh my God, she's not that person that the media portrays me to be. She's really a really kind and nice person. But
No.
they still continue to spout all this hate. It's awful. People need to realize, stop it.
Yeah, they need
Really
to
stop
they need
it.
to stop it and just take a look at the situation, try to understand it, get more feedback, find out what really happened. Why do these people feel this way? I mean, nobody can convince me that the 2020 election was not stolen. There were so many anomalies and nobody wanted to look at them. If it's not stolen, it should be a clean race without any anomalies. But when you have those anomalies,
Even if you don't, even if you don't say like it was stolen with ballots or whatever, let's just say there was no ballot manipulation in any way, shape, or form. The $400 million that Zuckerberg gave the Democratic Party in advertising, that right there is election interference. The 51 people that signed off that the Hunter Biden laptop was a Russian disinformation campaign, that right there is election interference.
and it's
Not
been
letting the people
proven.
make the decision. So just those two things that we know 100% for real, and the Russia collusion hoax that they ran against him the entire time and impeached him with was a hoax. We know that's fake. Guess what? Those three items right there are enough to say that election was stolen. I don't care what happened with the ballots. They
Mhm.
did not let the American people decide
No,
that
they didn't.
election.
They
Yep.
didn't, and it's and so many, and you can see from the crowds that went to Washington D.C. that it wasn't just a minority of people that believe that. And I can guarantee you, if everybody could afford to have been at D.C., those crowds would have been massively larger. Just
Yeah.
not everybody could leave their homes and go to D.C. on
I don't think we
January.
could have been anybody else in DC. There was
Yeah.
at least 1 million people there. They don't advertise or talk about
They
that.
don't show it.
It was from the White House where we were to the Capitol that the people were. There was no place to
And
walk.
see, the
Yeah,
pictures you're showing are just at the Capitol.
Yeah.
yeah,
That's nothing.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
That's
nothing.
nothing compared to what was at the ellipse.
Yeah, because you could see the street all the way on the right. It's packed with people till the eye can't see. I mean,
Yep.
there was lots of people there, and that time of day, there were still people walking there.
Yep.
I mean, that was just a beautiful crowd. Look at all those people. It's like Trump rallies. Whenever you go to a Trump rally, it's always positive and people flag waving,
Yep.
people so proud of America and freedom. It's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Yep.
And
And that was
there
so
was no.
shocking. Everyone was getting along so well. It was such a fun, it was so good until, getting to this Capitol. And no, we were in shock. You know, we didn't even know what happened. We didn't get there till what, like 2:45?
Yeah, we got there. No, 2:30.
2:30 we got there after Trump
Yeah.
got through speaking and stuff. So we didn't even know this was happening until we literally walked and seen this. It's just crazy what they say. It's just crazy.
But yeah, we
Yeah.
led the attack, even though we showed up 2 hours after it started. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
Well, yeah, and it just was a very unfair, unjust, um, you know, incarceration of a bunch of people that then they just were writing the narrative. That was a Pelosi-driven narrative, in my
And they
opinion.
have the mainstream media, so they can do it. You know, that's the problem.
The mainstream media is the problem, and that's why, and that's what Trump was saying. They're getting their news when did you see Caroline Levitt's first White
Oh yeah,
House
it's
briefing?
fantastic.
And she was
Yeah.
talking about the media, and the media is, they don't want this fake media. The media is us. It's the podcasters. It's the young people getting out there and spreading information that's for real. And she's making room for them there. I'm expecting to see a lot of new faces in those briefings on TV, because that's what we need. We need new media. We need true media like it used to be decades and decades ago, and get rid of this nasty narrative of trying to just, circumvent the truth.
Yeah.
And you asked earlier, like, where do we take this? And one of the things that I've been talking to Robert about, Robert Morse, is that exact thing. Is like, hey, how can we begin pushing forward to expose the truth about issues and talk about issues from the reality side and both ways, whether it hurts Republicans or whether it hurts Democrats, it doesn't matter. We want the truth exposed. We want the truth shown. And I think that we've actually discussed, doing a show. We've got a couple ins with some networks, so it's just something we're talking about right now. That may be the angle we take. I really thought that it might be politics for me, but I hate it, and she won't let me do it.
No.
She said, if you do politics, you're going to be alone doing it. So.
Well, do you know Jake Lang?
No comment.
Jake, he's the other J6er that has like this fundraiser going on, and I think they're going to do some kind of a documentary. You can do a documentary too. You know, I
Yeah,
I
well,
think people will watch those.
the problem you have to use caution with who you're doing things with. I will say that the best way I can. Some people are scamming the American public, taking a lot of money from them, and not doing anything for the people they say they're going to help. And that's just my opinion. I'm not going to say who's doing that. I'm just going to say that there are many people doing that.
Right, right. Yeah, so you got to do your own thing, right? You've got to get
Yep.
your information out. You guys have 2 books out. I liked both of your books, so they're good written books. You guys did a good job. And if you can get with somebody and either write more books or do, oh, well, you know what? My other partner's friend, who's also a partner with him, mentioned doing audiobook. You could turn your book into an audiobook so that
We've
people,
discussed that too, actually reading our own parts too. And then one of the things you could do with an audiobook is you can expand on, you could actually literally do your audiobook and then expand off into personal stories about each thing. You know what I mean?
or
Kind
you
of
could
like
do like,
read your book and then go off on a podcast for a little bit and then read your book and go, you know what I mean?
or what if
Create
you did a
something.
podcast regularly to talk about things?
We've talked about that too. So there's a very tight group of us that are looking at doing something that we're talking about right now. There's no guarantees. It's just conversation at this point. No matter what we do, unfortunately, when you lose everything, you've got to come. I don't have a car. I mean, I don't have a way to get around. I don't have a job yet. And honestly, I think I've needed a week just to kind of figure out, like,
Who you are again.
yeah, I mean, you got to understand something. And she's funny. She's like, you don't have to eat at 6 a.m. and
I know
11
there's 3 meals I get as mess
4
hall. I'm like,
o'clock, you know what I
okay,
mean? It's
breakfast
like,
is here, lunch is
you're
here.
right. And it's kind of crazy. It's like, okay, I can go outside now if I want to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I can walk out that door and go stand outside. I don't have to sit in my room. You know, it's just really, I just say it's more like getting your feet back underneath yourself. It's a difficult thing, and especially after the 2.5 years the guys that did the DC time. I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people that are going to call themselves January 6ers, but unless you're in that DC jail that first year, you'll never be a hardcore J6 guy like me, and like the guys like Tim and like Rob and like Shane, and there's just, I can list 100 of them. I mean that came through there, because that's when we were being really, that's when it was torture. It was
Yeah,
it was not prison time. It was torture.
Your beard down here.
I went to prison. I know what that is. You know what I'm saying? DC, the first year in DC was torture. And
you
although
guys
they've
were
been
taunted there. Were you guys taunted there?
absolutely, when we came in, we were taunted by the inmates and the guards. So it wasn't just that. I mean, there was beatings by the guards. No one messed with me, but there would be people got hit by the guards.
You couldn't shave for a year. They didn't give him a haircut or razor. These guys look like just
I know.
a huge. Yeah, I mean, so
no religious services for over a year.
Wow.
Medical facility was horrible. It just wasn't a good scenario, especially to be there. And I mean, the lockdowns, like when I got there, I was putting my cell on a Monday, and they didn't open the door again until Friday. I mean, I didn't get a
They just
shower
brought
for
you
5
food
days.
to your cell?
Open the slot, push it through, and if you're not there, it hits the floor.
Oh
So
my
they don't
gosh.
care. Yeah, they don't care. They don't care. And it's really strange because you didn't have commissary, didn't have a radio, didn't have a book. You just sat there in silence all day long, 23 hours a day. You get out, make a phone call, take a shower, go back in, and we did that for 9 months.
Yeah,
So
I know when I was trying to get a hold of, I think it was Barry Ramey, and he was here in Florida. He was at the
yeah,
halfway house.
Barry's
I
a good
could
guy.
not get through to him. The warden would not let me get through to him, and then they sent me this sheet that was 25 years old on media, and I says, "Well, we're digital media broadcasting. That's come a long way since 2000, since, 2000 over there. You're
Yeah,
25 years behind the times." But
they
they
called me
said,
up to the warden's building. Um, and I'm like, why? And they're like, you got to go up to the warden's building. They want to talk to you. So I walked up to the warden's building, and he's like, you have 2 requests for media interviews. Do you want to accept these or decline them? And I said, well, who are they? So they put them in front of me, and they showed me who they were. And I said, yeah, I'll accept these. And I signed it. And he goes, there's no way in hell you're ever going to see these people. And that was it. That was it. That was the end of my interview right there. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, well, because he has the right to decline it. And he's like, for the safety of the facility, I'm declining these. All they got to do, they can lock you down for 10 months straight if they want to, because they can just say safety of the facility. Really, the BOP needs to be totally redone. If you want to ask me what I want to do, if I had my ultimate goal of what I could do, put me in charge of the BOP. I'll fix that thing fast. First of all, save us $500 million the first year, just deport all the illegal aliens that are sitting in there with drug charges.
Cash Patel said that today.
They shouldn't even be in prison. Get rid of them. Take them out of the BOP that we're paying $150 a day. Put them on a freaking plane, and send the plane over the country and push them out the door with a parachute on. You know what I mean? Don't care if you make it. Don't care if you're not. But if you come back, you're going to go to a max prison, and you're not going to like it. You know what I mean? You're not going to sit in some low prison and hang out with your buddies watching TV and playing dominoes all day. It's not going to happen. But I mean, there's one way you could do it right there, just in itself. Plus, you have to understand something. These prisons aren't getting anybody ready to go back out. They're not. They're not even administering the First Step Act the way they're supposed to be doing it. First Step Act is supposed to be applied to anybody that's a nonviolent offender, basically, and it's not happening. They're not doing it. There's guys sitting in prison in Memphis right now that have an early out date of December of last year, and the counselors are telling them you're not getting out until November. And they really don't have a whole lot they can do. But someone needs to fix that system, or at least have some oversight on it. I'd love to get involved with something like that, but I think that's a pipe dream. You know what I mean? It's just a matter, you'd have to get in the right person's ear and get to that level. But I think the BOP should actually be more federal oversight with corporate involvement. It would be so easy to grab car dealerships locally and have a mechanical training program and be able to install tires on people's cars and do oil changes and train these people to have a job. Listen, you take a drug dealer that sold drugs his whole life. You put him in prison for 5 years. He comes back out. He doesn't know anything else. He sells drugs again. That's what happens. That's why you have repeat offenders over and over again. You teach him how to be a mechanic, where this guy can make $100,000 a year working on cars and have a respectable job. He's going to do it. He wants to have something to do, but you're not giving him the opportunity to learn to do it.
Yeah, because the technology and the times move so fast now. And like when I was watching on January the 20th, when they were releasing prisoners, they were sending them out with nothing. I'm like, how does he not have ID? Didn't he have all that stuff on him when he went in? Where did it go?
It was 14 degrees outside. I didn't have a jacket.
Yeah, they'd send them out with their slippers, their orange slippers. And
shower slippers.
Thank God there were people there. Thank God there were groups there that had clothing and stuff that were getting stuff to these guys that were coming out, and but it was like, what? And why don't they have IDs? Didn't they arrest them with their IDs? It was just shocking to me.
Yeah.
But that's the treatment that was given.
I think
I have my ID still.
You have your ID?
Yeah, I mean, it's just my inmate ID card. So.
But yeah, so I mean, I don't know what the conditions were when everybody got arrested, but I'm like, how do they not have their ID? Wouldn't they have to identify them when they arrest them?
Well, it's not like there's people lining up out there trying to get into prison. You know what I mean? It's like one of the dumb things they do in prison is they check your IDs. You're coming to get chow, and I'm like, no one is breaking into prison to get this crappy food. You know what I mean? It's like, you don't need to check our IDs, right? Yeah.
Nobody wants
oh my gosh.
Exactly.
So you were in car sales before you went in?
Yeah, I've been a general manager of car dealerships for the last 15 years. I went back down to general sales manager, but I've always been involved in the sales side. My last job, the last 4 years, I got a lot more involved in the service industry. So learned about building a service department. When I took over a small dealership that had 2 mechanics, I had to get it to 10, and we had to build it up from a very small part of ROs to a much larger volume. So it took a little bit of learning, but I pretty much came in to master a lot of the auto mechanic side of things as well. But my sales background, I'm not sure I want to go back into the dealership management aspect of it, just because of the time involved. I lost 4 years, and I kind of feel like I deserve that back. And I'm going to try to put myself in a position where I can not work those 80 hours a week. You know what I mean?
He wants to put more time with his family.
I want to spend more time with my family. Yeah. See my grandbabies. I got a granddaughter I hadn't seen in ever. And I think I saw her, 10 minutes in DC one time. Yeah, I seen her 10 minutes in DC one time. She's 2 years old, so I've been in 4 years, so I didn't see her. And then Jana Beans, my little baby, when I left, she's a little girl now. She's grown up, so I missed all that, and I want to get that back. So,
you did. There's some guys that were in there, and their wives were pregnant.
Yeah,
and they came out, and it's like, I haven't seen my kid at all. It's like a whole new kid to know. They're getting to know.
Some of the guys were really fun. We were 2 years in, right? And one of the guys is like, "Man, I'm so happy I just found out my wife's pregnant." No, it's a joke. I was like, yeah, I was like, what? You're in here. Why are you happy? Oh, but that was a joke. But yeah, so a lot of guys
that's a joke, right?
Yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of families that are reunited this week, so it's fantastic. But there's a lot of families that aren't reuniting this week. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, what about about Jeremy Brown, right?
Absolutely. Jeremy Brown was one of the Oath Keepers. He was
with us.
I know exactly what happened to Jeremy Brown. I know exactly how it happened. I know exactly what was said to this gentleman who lied about what happened. And we've been in contact with his attorneys. We know everything that's going on. So she's basically just said, look, let's not spread any rumors about what's happening. Let's just let their legal team talk out about it. And let's just say that they're talking to the people in the right places to get something done. And we really believe it's going to happen. So they're working together.
I saw that, what's his name? Rhodes was talking to some representatives, congressmen and stuff to try to work this out. So I hope that gets worked out, because I know Jeremy was running for office from his prison cell a while. We voted. We were like, I couldn't vote in his district, but we were like, we're going to support him. we're supporting him. We'll give him some money.
Yeah, he had ran the, I think the time before he had got incarcerated as well. So yeah, but
Yeah,
I think he
yeah,
probably did better. He probably did better from prison than he did before then. You know what I mean? He probably got more
yeah,
support now. So
He's a
yeah.
very nice
Well,
yeah,
I'm wondering.
he's a solid guy. With his background, man, you just have to wonder how in the world the government can do this to the people that have served him so well.
Yeah, yeah, I know. It's really scary when your government goes against you like that. And
Right.
the people that are arresting you are, well, I'm doing my job. It's like, well, why don't you tell your job that you're not going to do that job? Like what
Right.
you're doing is wrong. Where's the ethics? If everybody had ethics, they would have nobody to do the job.
Yeah.
So,
That's kind of like well, you were talking earlier about like what we can do, and then you started mentioning people doing their jobs. A lot of times when people say like, if everybody wasn't working, if everyone wasn't busy, they would have came to January 6th. That's what our country has to have. Our country has to get its priorities straight. And I had a job that day. I could have been at work that day. She had things to do here that she could have done that day. But we knew it was more important that we do something for our country. And I don't think you asked the forefathers, hey, when you guys spent those 2 weeks in there working on the Constitution, didn't you guys have a job to do? How could you get time off? They made the time off. And when it comes
mhm,
down to the things that you have to do sacrifices for yourself. And I had
yeah,
an officer approach me when I was in the SHU. When I travel, they put me in solitary in a hole. They put me in the hole. It's like the worst place you can go. And they never open your door. There's a shower in your cell. They never open your door. And he put me down there, and I'm like, listen, I need to call my wife and let her know where I'm at. That's all I care about. I don't care. You can put me in a hole for 10 years at a time. I do not care. As long as I can talk to her. As long as I can talk to my kids, I'm okay. You know what I mean?
let them know you're okay.
That's all I care about. That's all I want to do is hear her voice, and everything's fine with me. I'll sit there all day long. I'm not going to complain. You will never hear a complaint out of me. But they put me in the hole in Oklahoma in the transfer center. And after 3 days, the SHU lieutenant, he's in charge of all this area, right? He comes down and he comes to my cell and he goes, how you doing, man? You're one of the Jan 6 guys. I just want you to know that I support you a lot. And I said, I need to make a phone call. And he goes, I can't help you with that. And he goes, but I am on your side. I said, I want you to understand something. You are not on my side. If you will
Mhm.
not allow me to make a phone call and tell my wife that I'm alive, that I'm okay, and everything's fine, you are not on my side. You are the enemy. And that's the truth.
Yeah.
If you can't stand up for the wrongs that are being done in this country, and you think you're just going to sit there and say that everything's okay and that you're on my side, when in reality, you are supporting my captors, don't even embarrass yourself by saying you're on my side. And he
Yeah,
didn't
you're
know what to
right.
say. He just walked away.
Yeah,
He just
because
walked
you
away.
were
He couldn't
right.
say anything. I
You're
still didn't get
right.
my phone call, but I figured I didn't get my phone call, but I figured I'd give it a shot. You know what I mean? But it didn't work.
Yeah, when I'm not working right now, but I used to work, and I would use my vacation day to go to sessions to go because I'm in Florida, so I would go to Tallahassee with some people, and we would go and do citizens lobbying. Like whether it's for the Second Amendment or it's for election integrity, or if it's for any issues that we had in the state of Florida, we would go and lobby up there and meet. And I actually am planning on going in February. So that's what I like to do. I like to go up there and meet face to face with my representatives. And, I got caught up in the whole DEI thing. So that's why I'm not working, because I worked for the school district. And I realize now what happened. And DEI I'm very convinced DEI was part of why I did not get reinstated, because I had a great record. And so now my husband's like, yeah, if you like doing that, I'll support you and you can go up and do the lobbying for the things that are good for Florida and stuff like that. So I do a lot of that, and then the podcasting and stuff, and doing stuff like this, trying to make people aware of what's going on in our nation. And you make some really good suggestions on what we should do to move forward. We got to push back on those things that are not constitutional, and we've got to push back on our representatives, and somehow we've got to get them replaced and educate our society so that when they're voting, they realize what their vote does and who it puts in there. Because uh, this last election, I almost convinced me that the grassroots didn't have a chance, because so much money was involved and so many chits that were paid off, and people just follow the money, or they follow the endorsements. And sometimes the endorsements aren't genuine. The endorsements are just favors being paid back.
Or being paid for.
Yeah. Yes, that's right. So it's like trying to educate the community is one of the hardest things, because you need people to want to learn, to want to know the truth. So that's how I
Right.
got into the podcasting this last election. I was interviewing all our candidates on our podcast. We started out on X, and now we've got a little podcast that we're doing now. So, and then I was like, the J6ers didn't get a fair shot. We need to know that they're people, because now that they're coming out, they have to start their lives. And people need to realize these are regular people like you and me. They didn't go in there and burn cities. They didn't go in there and take over a police station. Remember that police station? Well, Chaz took over.
Yeah.
I mean, the police were afraid. They ran out of their police station, like in a frenzy, because they burnt the police station down. And then they
what happened to those people? What happened to those people? They don't even talk about
nothing happened to those people. And it's like, guys, these are not those people. That was an insurrection of a city, of a town.
And well, I can also tell you this: the people that rioted in Washington D.C. Out in front of the White House that got arrested back when Trump was in office, when they burned the church, St. John's.
Oh, yeah.
When they arrested them, those people spent 2 days in jail, and they got 40 grand a day for their incarceration. They were paid back. So I just want my 40 grand a day times 1,400 days, and her 280 days. Yeah, if I could just have that, we'll call it even.
I know. It's like, all the monuments that you guys passed by, none of them got destroyed.
No, there's not one spray painted monument because of January 6th.
No, it's just crazy. And I just want to.
Doors open, we got pushed in the building. I'm screaming, "Don't push!" And we literally got pushed into the building. Didn't even walk in there on our accord. And I know at his trial, I yell at him for this. I go, his trial, they proved that the doors, they had been open.
Well, we showed that. So understand the way it works. Our case has 22 people on the case. It's a large case. And they're like, we can't try all these people together, so we're going to divide them into 3 groups. We're going to get the leadership group, which was me, Stuart, Ken Harrelson, Jessica Watkins, and Thomas Caldwell. That was our group. Then they had the next group down, and then they had we call them the
old people.
The island of misfit toys. It's the island of misfit toys. They're this one's wife, this one's sister, this one's grandma. You know what I mean? It's like they were just kind of hanging out with us. So in our trial, I was charged with destruction of government property over $30,000, which was the Columbus doors. And I'm like, I don't even understand how you can possibly try to tell me that happened when I was a mile and a half away when it occurred. You know what I mean? So showed the video. Here's me walking down the street. Here's the doors being broken, and they're both at the same exact time. I'm still way down by the White House, and here's the Capitol doors being broken. Not possible. They dismissed that charge in our trial. Nobody got it. Next group of oath keepers go. Here's the video. Here's the video. Put them side by side. Never happened. Okay, dismiss the charge. Nobody got that charge. Not guilty. Her trial. Here's the video. Here's the video. No way it happened. Everybody got the charge. So she's the one.
I got charged with that. I'm like, are you serious? I'm like 6 years old and try to break down some doors that are this big. I wasn't even near the door.
She actually ended up with more charges than me.
I know. That was a felony charge for me. That's how corrupt it was. I'm like, how do you give me a felony charge for that? That is unbelievable.
Connie, did they make you feel like you had to sign a plea on that and saying that you did it or anything?
When I first got home on my ankle monitor, I had I guess she was a pro bono lawyer, and she kind
No,
of,
we paid for her.
oh, you paid
I
a
paid her
little bit.
$10,000.
Okay, but not a lot.
Oh,
But she worked kind of for the other side. I'm gonna put it that way. Trying to get me really against my husband and saying this and that and things that I was thinking, oh my God, I didn't have any idea. So when someone, I'm not going to name a name, did a plea deal that only got probation because they said stuff that wasn't true, I was asked to go and do this. I was asked to go, and I said, I don't have anything that my husband did. I just watched him do good things in the building. I don't have anything to go to a plea deal for. They said, don't worry about it, just come. We're going to go August 31st, I think it was.
Yeah.
And I finally said, I can't do it. I don't know what, I'm not going to plead anything that I didn't do. Well, after that, then they wanted 8-10 years for me in prison because I wouldn't lie, basically. Otherwise, I could have got probation and I wouldn't have gone to prison. But I believe in a God, and I believe that that someday I'm going to heaven, and to lie to people, to go on a stand and tell lies, I can't do that. I just couldn't perjure myself. So I went to jail, and I had to do the right thing. And I hope that God, when I'm going to heaven, looks at that and says, good job, Connie, that you told the truth.
And it's the same story for me. When I first got arrested, I was in DC, and it was about my 4th week there. And I got a letter from my attorney, and then I called him and we had a phone conversation. And it basically said, this is what they want you to say, and they can make all of this go away. And I called my attorney and I said, I will say whatever they want me to say, but it has to be the truth. And this ain't the truth. And he goes, well, then they're going to come at you hard. And I said, I don't care. I'm not lying. I'm not lying. They wanted me to say that Stuart Rhodes made me go in the building. That never happened. Not one time did he ever talk about going in the building, discuss going in the building, talk about the election itself, other than it was stolen.
mm-hmm.
They said if I would say that, not only wouldn't have to go through court and all this stuff, I could have been home right then with my family again. But I wouldn't be able to look at myself in the mirror every day knowing I put a person in prison because I lied. And yet
Right.
4 or 5 people on our case did that. They lied. And I'm so happy that I gave up 4 years of my life so that I can proudly look at myself in the mirror in the morning, and I don't have to face their cells like they do.
And they didn't have to go to prison. They only got probation.
Yep.
So I
Wow,
guess if they can live with
and it's
themselves for that.
And with all the pictures that I was looking at that I could see that were when they showed all the people trying to break into the Capitol, or they showed pictures of nefarious people holding, like I found a picture where somebody is holding a big sledgehammer, and I didn't see I didn't see the Oath Keepers anywhere in sight. I didn't see
No,
any.
we only actually it's funny because
I was specifically looking to see if I saw Oath Keepers anywhere in those pictures, and I'm like, the only place I saw you guys was in the front, way behind the Capitol, way before you walk onto the property. There's like a tree there, and you're standing in grass, and there's a bunch of you lined up like you're taking your picture. And I was like, well, that's nowhere near where all this stuff's
The
happening.
infamous where they say we walked up there. My husband said, this is the infamous, what would they call it?
stack.
The stack. This is our stack. This is what it was. My husband says, honey, hang on to my shoulder strap. Everybody hang on so we don't get lost in the crowd. And we're going to go up there because Kenny and them, the other Oath Keeper people, were up there standing there talking to the police officers. So that was our big, I'm like, oh my gosh, I couldn't believe when I read that. I was like, you got to be kidding me. Hold on to my shoulder.
Military style formation that assalted the Capitol.
I'm like,
what?
Oh my gosh. We just didn't want to get lost in the crowd. There was no military operation for that.
I know.
Yeah, when we inside the building, and if you get a chance to watch those 2 videos I spoke about, the Stephen Baker videos about Harry Dunn, you will see we go in the building. Once we kind of get our bearings, we're standing there, and a guy falls down. So I thought he was hurt, so I went over and grabbed him, and he was praying. So we all got down and we prayed with him. And then we stood back up and we walked back over. We were kind of standing on the edge of the rotunda, kind of just looking around, going like, okay, what's going on? Trying to get our bearings. Because someone had told us that their officers were being assaulted and assaulted and assaulted. They need help. They need help. So all of a sudden, Joe Hackett, one of the guys from Tampa, came out and he told Ken, he goes, Ken, there's an officer over here that's going crazy. He's like screaming and yelling. So Kenny goes around the corner and he sees him, comes back up and gets me. He goes, man, we got a problem over here. This officer's going crazy. He starts shooting people because he had his weapon ready to go. And so we came around the corner and he's yelling and screaming. They're killing us down there. They're attacking us. You people are trying to kill us and we're going to kick you out. And I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You got to calm down. Just relax. Stop it. And we formed this wall in front of him and pushed the crowd back away from him so that no one could get near him. And that video of all that happening was available after our trial. But when they showed it during our trial, there was 6 minutes missing from the video. It was blacked out. It was a continuously running video that went black for 6 minutes and then came back on, and the guy was in a different section of the building. And so after our trial, the video came out. Well, we sent the video that was blacked out from our evidence to a forensic digital analyst, and he said that it was formatted with like 4 different programs so that it couldn't be detected how it was done. So it was something like he had never seen before. He's like, I don't know how they did this. And then another guy that testified that he'd seen us had also, we was in another building, so he completely lied on the stand. And then thirdly, as we were leaving the building, once Harry Dunn had backup come with him, we left him there with them. We left the building and I assisted officers in getting people out of the building for 6 minutes. And that's also on camera. But the biggest thing is Harry Dunn, in his first FBI 302, he said, yes, the Oath Keepers helped me. They came and they stood in front of me and built a wall so the crowd wouldn't get to me. The second one, he's like, well, I let them stand there, but they didn't really help. And then his third one was, we were aggressively trying to get past him and what we agitating him or something, and agitating the crowd to try to push past him. So he continually changed his story. So any light on the stand. So I'm hoping we get an opportunity to see him in the January 6th committee too.
But in the building, the police officers were fist bumping my husband and thanking him. I mean, it was so strange. They're like, "Oh, thank you, great job," and he was helping people get out of the building. The one policewoman asked Kelly, she goes, "Do you mind if I go to the bathroom while you're helping getting the people out of the building? I'm going to go to the bathroom for a minute." She went to the bathroom, and waited and came back. We thought, oh my gosh, they're going to be so, happy and say thank you for, you guys helping and being kind. Instead, what was it? A month later, we're arrested and we're terrorists, and it's crazy. It's just all lies.
Well, they needed the narrative. They needed the narrative of the Oath Keepers who were tied into Roger Stone, who were tied into Donald Trump, and that's how they were going to make the connection and bring Trump down on the insurrection charge so that he can't run for office again in 2024. That was their ultimate plan. And unfortunately, the American people realized it and have used it back against them. Now, what Donald Trump needs to do, and this is my message for him if he happens to listen to this podcast, is his legacy is going to have a tarnish on it forever. And his legacy is going to have that January 6th stamped upon it for the rest of his life, unless he allows this January 6th committee to do a full investigation into exactly what happened that day, expose the truth for everybody, and bring retribution to those of us who have suffered because of all the lies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Are there people are there people who went there with violence in mind? I believe there were, but 99% of the men that I served time with, I truly believe were either in the defense of others or defending themselves because they were attacked. And I've seen the videos. I've spent more time looking at these videos than probably anyone else, except for other defendants who've had the opportunity to look at those videos. Because when you're in prison 24 hours a day and you've got a tablet that has your videos on it, you're looking for everything, every single little thing in detail.
You're researching
over and over again and over and over again. And you start noticing these little idiosyncrasies within how people are acting and how they're moving. And you start seeing teams working together to motivate and move people. And it's really a unique thing to sit down and watch. When you see 3 or 4 guys that are wearing, one of them actually talked to her. I was watching this group that had camouflage and all had the red MAGA hat on, but all camo and like tannish colored camo. And they were bouncing around and they're telling people, go over here, we got to go down this way. Come on, let's go. Well, we walked by and he goes like that. And he saw us and he came running over to her and he's like, come here. You got to go this way. So she grabs me and I'm like, what are you doing? And I'm like, we're not going over there. We're not listening to someone else tell us where to go. We're just going to do our own thing. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
he was trying to motivate people to go down the hallways towards the Senate and the House buildings so that there was better optics. But what happened was everybody that was in the building was kind of congregated around the rotunda. They went into the hallways a little bit, but they didn't really vary too far off on their own. Once in a while, you'd see some people straggle through. But for the most part, the largest bulk of the people were in the rotunda, which is not
Mhm.
where any of the congressmen or senators, anybody were. So some of the narratives you get out of that are different.
I
But
think when we
Yeah.
came out, I realized when we got out of the building and we were in like 12 or 15 minutes total.
19 minutes.
19 minutes. Someone came up to me and asked me to go. Me, I mean,
Yeah.
here's my husband, 6'5". I'm 5'4". He goes up to me and says, "Would you go over there and guard that broken window?" I told my husband, "Heck no." I said, "No way." And then I told my husband, "Something's wrong. This is weird." I said, "This is not
because
something.
we were standing outside.
It's not right."
We had medics with us that day. So we had a couple people, 2 Ranger medics were with us that day. And they were helping people who were injured and had been sprayed in the eyes and stuff like that. And we're standing in front of a line of riot police who are out there smoking cigarettes, texting on their phones. I'm like, why aren't you guys doing anything? They're like, there's nothing to do.
Not doing anything.
Nothing to do. They literally stood there the whole time we were there. So we hung out with them and talked to them. And then a couple of like 3 or 4 police came by and we were talking and Connie was facing that way. And he said that to her, like, hey, can you guys go over and guard this window that's broken? And I'm like, you're 4 cops. There's a whole
like 5'4".
20 cops here in riot gear. Why don't they go do it? Why are
That
there
would have been another felony for me. They would have been like, "Look at
Or worst
Connie
case
Meggs over by that window. She broke it."
or they would have shot you like Ashley Babbitt.
Yeah, really, my ashes.
I mean, that's one thing. That's one thing I'll say. Also, it's like, we all get to come home. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We got to come home. Ashley's there forever.
Yeah.
And Kevin Greason's there, and Roseanne Boylan's there, and Benjamin Phillips is there. Those guys, they're not coming home. You know what I mean?
No,
So
they're
as
not.
joyful of a time it is for all of us to be back with our families, and we could sit here and complain about getting our feet back underneath of us and trying to find a job and trying to get a car and trying to do anything just to get your life back on track. Ultimately, those people are never coming home, and Mama Mickey did nothing but help and support us. She was out there in Freedom Corner every night. And we love her. She's always part of our family, that's for sure. And but just take time to think about those people too,
Yeah, and then there's 2 that committed that took their lives from being in prison,
under the
right?
persecution. Yeah.
Yeah, it's they persecute you pretty hard. But I mean, I got to come home after about a month and a half when I first got arrested. I got on a giant ankle monitor.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I had to deal with losing both my parents on this ankle monitor, so that was a horrible experience. But I was home and I'm with my kids. But it just I don't know. I try. It's hard to bring up the memories because you try to block them out of your head.
That's exactly what you do.
Because it's so traumatic to you, what they have done to you and the persecution that you've gone through. I could see these people. I mean, there's been times, not now, but when I probably would have been in that same situation of what they tell you and what they want for you and how they want to have you go away for 10 years. It's really quite horrible what they've done for 4 years. It's horrible. That's all I can
Yeah,
say.
they don't care about you as a human being, and then they label you an insurrectionist, which is something you're not against your country. You love your country,
Not at all.
you're not that. You love this country and you would fight for this country and you would save anybody on the street. You would be like a Daniel Penny, you have a good heart, good people. That's not who you are, and that label's just so heavy to wear. And what
I
they've
risked
done.
my life for the gopher turtles in the street. I'm like, oh my God, it's a turtle in the street. I'm gonna go get him. My husband's like, you're crazy. I'm like, I know, I gotta get
it. You almost have to start your own business, to get started again, unless you find an employer that's going to help you out and hire you and look past all this.
And that's the hard part. With all the money going to attorneys and just trying to keep your home over those years. I mean, we spent $160,000 on attorneys, and the last 2 years were paid for by defending in the Republic. So, I mean, most people that went to trial, these attorneys wanted $100,000 to represent you.
I told my husband, God got us here this far. God got Trump here this far. I never thought 4 years ago when they came here to arrest me, I'm Catholic, so I was going to Ash Wednesday when I got arrested. So God, I never thought Trump would be in office. I really never thought this would happen. So, and he survived the shooting. So, and we've able to keep our home, and he's home. If God's gotten us this far, he's got a good plan for us all, I think. So that's what I keep up. He didn't do this for no reason at all. That's how I feel.
Do you guys have like a Give Send Go page?
We do.
You
it's
do?
Basically givesendgo.com/Meggs, MEGGS.
Do you have your book on there as well?
I don't. That's on Amazon.
Let me see if I could pull that up.
Free.
Send
Go. Free. Yeah,
I should write one called free. Yeah, there you go.
Now that you're out, you can do free.
Givesendgo.com/Meggs.
Yep.
See, I'm trying to find it here so I could show everybody. Here it is. Oh, that's such a nice picture.
Yep, that's my whole family. My mom, my dad, everybody.
Let me fill it up. Let me pull it in there. We're going to pull it up there. Share screen. Give, send, go. Is it coming up? Let's see. I want to get that up there for you. Nope. I'm going to try it again.
There it is.
There it is. I'm trying to get it a big screen. I was trying to go through my screen, see which one's the best one to look at it. Let's go back up here. There it is. Give, send, go. And it's got your little family history. Wow, you have a beautiful family.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Tallahassee. We did that.
Yeah, that's in Tallahassee. That's where my parents lived. My mom passed away just before January. In 2018. Yeah. So
my mom died 2 months before I had to go to prison. That was that was horrifying. But
yeah, anything anybody can do. I mean, like I said, if you've got a car laying around that you don't need anymore, I need one of those. If you know somebody looking for a good salesperson that doesn't mind working hard, but wants to make sure he's off the weekends with his family, I'm ready to work. So
yeah, what a beautiful family. So we've got that out there. Everybody can take a look at that and donate there. We also have your other book that they can also go to Amazon.com to get, but they also can go here to Robert's, because you're partners with Robert on that book.
Yep.
Let me see. Robert Morse, is it here? And here is the other website for that.
Yep.
And that's pretty nice website. Let's make that a little bigger. It looks kind of small. Let me see if I can make that a little bigger. A little bigger so we can see it. And that's the book there. And that's at akathelEgoman.com. There's also merch there. Lego Man. Yeah. Those are real Legos, and they work with real Legos too. I think that's a great idea. So that's Robert Morse's site too. And there you go, by Kelly Meggs and Robert Morse. I like that book. It lists these are good books you guys wrote, and I'm really happy that you guys did that. You got to share the story, and hopefully that helps a little bit. You've got some income coming in. It's not a lot, but every little bit helps when you're trying to get back on your feet.
100%.
And we'll have to post we'll have to post some more of your website up there for your Give, Send, Go, so people can start hitting that and getting it to you directly. So you're not going through so many, any other programs, and it's coming right to you. Like you said, sometimes when people start donating to other people that have good intentions, it doesn't really get to where it needs to go.
Yeah, that's why I tell people that don't, because a lot of these organizations start finger pointing at each other, like, oh, they're not doing this and they're not doing this. So listen, guys, who cares who's doing what? Just give directly to the families. That way you know where it's going. And
Yeah,
that's the best
yeah,
way to.
and you know your money's going directly to that family,
Yep.
you know? So, that's really important. I'm really glad that you guys came on to share your story. I think it's really important for everybody to know who you
We're
are,
good.
and
We're human beings. We're good people.
you are good people. I know. I'm talking to you guys and I'm like, it's just horrible that you have had to endure so much, for the love of your country,
Yeah.
for practicing what our First Amendment right teaches us to gives it's supposed to secure our rights. Those Bill of Rights are supposed to secure the rights that we already have. And that's all you guys were doing there. There's evidence that there were no burning buildings and no painted monuments. And when you guys left, maybe there was paper and flags on the floor, but the building was still standing, and so was the city. you
Right.
know there was nothing like what they made it out to be. You guys are beautiful people, and I'm really glad that you came on. I'd love to have you back on some other time, talk about where you're at, if you want to advertise what's going on in your life, as far as if you've got a business going, or you want to come on and join and talk again, or I would love to have you guys back on.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And thank you again, and stay in touch. I would love to stay in touch with
Sure.
you guys. You guys are in Florida. We're all Floridians. We're neighbors.
Absolutely.
So I would like to thank you, Kelly and Connie, for joining us today. And like I said, I would love to have you back.
Anytime. Thank you. You're very kind.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, everybody else, for joining us on Binford Chronicles. We are so happy to have you join us, and we wanted you all to know the true story behind the scenes of the J6. These are people, if you see them, if you meet them, treat them with the highest of respect. They're like the Daniel Pennies of America. They would jump in front of a train for you. They would try to save you. They would help you. They're there for you, for America, for their neighbors, and for their families. So if you run into them, welcome them home. Welcome them home with open arms, an open heart, and an open mind. That's it for Binford Chronicles. Again, thank you for joining us, and we'll be back. So remember to subscribe so when I come back on stream, you will know I'm up.